Psychiatrists say the COVID pandemic and the focus on social distancing has made us all a bit more lonely and a bit more awkward around other people. I would like to emphasize the consequences of isolation and loneliness the most, because it is no doubt an extremely important factor that affects both physical and mental health. People who spend a long time in isolation, like prisons or hospitals or Antarctica if you will, definitely lose certain social skills. And the longer they stay, the more they lose. Marcian Prohasko spent almost 2 months in Antarctica. He went there in early 2019 to write a book about the experience of being at a polar station. Later during quarantine, Marchioni often drew parallels with his time at the South Pole. Answer. Option B. People tend to become less sociable.
Charles. Okay, let's start with some basics. Why our homes matter in the big picture of climate change. Nobody cares more about this than Donald Baird, the Block Power CEO we met earlier. Baird. Buildings in the United States are responsible for 30% of greenhouse gas emissions across the country. If you want to do something about climate change, your home is among the most important places to look. Charles. Maybe it's hard to imagine a house releasing greenhouse gases just sitting there, but think about your daily routine. You stumble out of bed in the morning, turn on the lights, turn up the thermostat, take a shower, make some coffee or toast. The heat and the hot water may come from a furnace or a water heater that burn gas. They release carbon dioxide straight into the air, other kinds of pollution too actually. The lights and the coffee maker and the computer run on electricity, and that comes from power plants, most of which are still burning coal and gas. You can actually look at your electric bill and calculate those emissions.
Answer. Option C. To give examples of how a house can produce greenhouse gases.
In a time of stagnation and collective uncertainty, birding has given me the opportunity to get out of my head and commune with nature. While it has admittedly brought me some moments of frustration and disappointment, it's also allowed me to experience just pure, unadulterated stoke. It's provided moments of rapture and awe, surprise and delight, just looking at birds doing their thing in their natural habitats. It's fun as hell. But what comes to mind when you picture a birder? For a lot of people, the prompt conjures up an image of a person in a khaki vest, maybe, with a pair of binoculars hanging around their neck. Whatever preconceived notions are coming up, I want you to set them aside because there are all kinds of birders. And there's no right way to bird. All the tips in this episode are just that, tips. Take them or leave them depending on what you want your version of birding to be like.
Answer. Option B. There is no fixed way of birding. Migaki. In your role as a financial therapist, you've got sort of a 5-step process for something that you call financial intimacy. I'm wondering if you can help us define that and talk us through it. Clayman. So with the first one, equality. What we want to capture here in a healthy financial dynamic is that both partners have equal say and equal power about what's going to happen with the money. So sometimes when a couple comes to me with an inequality imbalance, there's a partner that either has, maybe is bringing in the bulk of the income and then thus feels like they should have more say. Or sometimes there's a partner that's just more anxious about money and so really needs money to be a source of control for them and feels like their partner is just in not agreeing with them and not doing what they say should be done with the money, that this is threatening to them. And they want their partner to kind of come to heel, if you will. So where I would approach that is, all right, well, we need to have both parties present in the decisions about the money. Just because you're more anxious or because you make more of a contribution to the income doesn't mean that you get an outsized say in this. Answer. Option C. Because one contributes more to the income and believes this gives more say.
Giving feedback is hard. It can be uncomfortable. And on some level, you worry that you could hurt the other person's feelings because that's sometimes what happens when you give feedback. But I want to say that getting good feedback can feel like an act of generosity, and I've experienced it firsthand. I had a boss who put so much thought and care into the way that she talked to me about my work. I felt like she was really invested, and I always felt better after talking to her and getting feedback. So really, constructive, actionable feedback is a gift. And in this episode, we're going to teach you how to give it. But don't worry, we have another episode coming about how to receive feedback, too, because, we're completists like that. What can I say? And while we're mostly focusing on giving feedback in a workplace setting, by all means, please take this wisdom from Marcella into your whole life. You won't regret it.
Answer. Option A. To prove that good feedback from others can be beneficial. If reading fiction is an exercise in empathy, as it lets you climb inside someone else's head and see the world through their eyes, then reading science fiction and fantasy ups the ante. You still see through someone else's eyes, but the world you're seeing can be almost anything. A distant planet, an alternate timeline, a land of magic and mystery, even maybe our own familiar world just tweaked a bit. Whether you're a longtime science fiction and fantasy reader or just getting your feet wet, or maybe you've stepped away from these genres for a while, only to become intrigued by how much they seem to be changing in recent years, we've got you covered with some basic background, some things to look for and some solid recommendations from experts. Answer. Option B. Different types of information on science fiction.
If you have a dog, you may have noticed that sometimes it seems to be smiling. But, of course, we know that dogs don't really smile. That's just how dog mouths appear sometimes, right? Perhaps, but according to neuroscientist Jaak Panksepp of Bowling Green State University, some animals do laugh. When chimps play, Panksepp notes, they make panting sounds that could be a form of laughter. Even rats have a way of laughing, by chirping when they're playing with each other or being tickled by humans. But, if animals do in fact laugh, what are they laughing at? Scientists have long known that for many animals, life isn't all about hunting, foraging, fighting, and sleeping. Young animals also play a lot, which suggests that animal laughter is related to playful joy.
Answer. Option C. Playing with their companions.